This is a regular meeting of the Montclair Planning Board. In accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the meeting has been provided by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and by sending a copy to the newspaper designated by the township for notices. Electronic notice of this meeting has also been provided by posting a copy on the township website with meeting access instructions and also posting a copy on the main access door of the municipal building. This meeting is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live and will be available on demand on YouTube. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding, meaning that the board has powers and procedures resembling a court of law, and that we are obligated to objectively determine facts and draw conclusions from them in order to provide a basis for official action. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that the board can legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate for a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Members of the public are automatically placed on mute until such time in the meeting when it is open for public question or comment. At this time, members will be unmuted and they may provide verbal questions or comments as appropriate, or they may direct their questions and comments to Ms. Talley via the chat or question and answer functions if the audio function is not working. As a last resort, you can also email Ms. Talley at jtalley@montclairnjusa.org. The first item on our agenda is our roll call, and I'm here.
Vice Chair Brodock?
I'm here.
Mr. Cook is excused. Mr. Graham?
Here.
Mr. Ian Wally? Ms. Lockman?
Here.
Councillor Schlager?
Here.
Mayor Spiller?
Present.
Ms. Willis?
Here.
And Mr. Jacobson?
Thanks to your excellent problem-solving skills, I am here. Thank you.
Is Mr. Neese? Oh, yes, Mr. Neese is here. Good. And how about Mr. Chandler? Yes, he's here as well. Okay.
All right. Next item is to wish our vice chair a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Good for you.
And I'm going to go on a limb, Chair Nguyen, and say I assume the present is a very short meeting.
I won't promise you something that I can't deliver. So we'll see. We'll try our best, though.
Fair enough.
All right. Now we have the minutes from our August 9th meeting.
I've received comments from Ms. Lockman and Vice Chair Brodock. And are there any additional changes to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I just have a question, Janice. So in my comments, I really had a question, not so much an addition. I was wondering if you're going to insert something about the statement that you made about the effect of the tax effect on a rehabilitation site.
Yeah, that's the August 23rd minutes.
Oh, sorry. Sorry,
I
I'm ahead of myself.
It's
That is next.
Sorry.
All right.
Is there-
Well, do we have a motion? If not, I so move. And if we
Second.
had the motion, I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions. Okay.
Okay. Now, Carmel, we're on to the 23rd.
Well, I basically had a question because I think you did make a statement, Janice, about how the taxes worked when an area is deemed an area in need of rehabilitation. Yet that was not in the minutes, and I was wondering if you wanted to allude to that in some way in the minutes.
I could certainly talk about the short-term tax abatement, the 5-year tax abatement. Not a problem.
It's an important issue, I think. Thank you.
Okay, and then the other issue, I think, Keith, I agree that there should be a statement in there that you agree with ordinance, the changes to the parking ordinance, even though it's inconsistent with the master plan. Okay, so I'll make that correction. Are there any other changes to the minutes? Is there a
The motion
motion?
to be approved?
Was that, John, was that a motion to approve?
It was?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions? Okay,
All right, and that brings us to the resolution on 6 Gates Avenue.
and I didn't see any changes to the resolution. Good job, Arthur.
well, I had one change, but I think, Art, you picked that up, right?
A very astute eye, a very discerning and very careful eye,
Careful
picked up
reading.
the misspelling of Mr. Luglio's name on page 6. And so,
You are
Janice,
good, Carmel.
she's terrific. So, Janice, I offer you the possibility of me changing that to Mr. Luglio with an L versus you doing it before you, whatever your pleasure.
I think I could make that change myself and relieve you of that need.
You have just made my day.
Are there any other changes?
I just have a question. I think the minutes reflected, and I recall that the applicant indicated to use some sort of effort to pursue shared parking. Did that make it into the resolution as an acknowledgement that the applicant would do that?
I didn't put it in there. It wasn't part of my resolution. I don't know if it was in the minutes.
I think the minutes reflects that they would. Actually, let me get the copy of the minutes here. The parking was a huge issue, right? The issue.
Yeah, it's on page 2. Page 2, the 7. I think the 7th paragraph on page 2. It is reflected in the minutes. Your statement.
Just that he's going to look into it. There was nothing. That's how I recall that there was no promises made, but I think that they're going to look into it because it would certainly benefit them if they can come up to some type of arrangement.
Well, maybe look into it is better than nothing. I'm not sure if anyone else, if there's no discussion about it, I guess you'd have to go back to the applicant. But I do recall that there was some sort of acknowledgement that there will be a lot of off-peak parking spaces, especially at Lackawanna, et cetera. And I thought there was an acknowledgement that, would give it a shot, would help.
It wasn't a requirement that would rise to the level that I think would go into the resolution, because parking was not something that we could hold against them, so to speak.
And it might just be in the best interest of the applicant vis-a-vis its tenants, rather than any requirement made by the board.
Okay, that's my only comment. That's it.
So I move to approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention.
Is that Mr. Graham?
Yes, I have a conflict.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. All right, good. It's approved.
And now that brings us to the application of Total Image Solutions, LLC for 115 Bloomfield Avenue.
I see we have Mr. Berkowitz. Mr. Berkowitz, I made you a panelist. Who else is here on behalf of your applicant?
I think Mr. Berkowitz is going to need to connect his audio first. It doesn't look like he's connected at the moment.
Okay. All right, yeah, Mr. Berkowitz, I think you're signed, there you go. Okay.
I
All right.
can't get the audio going. Oh, wait a second.
We
Video.
can hear you now. So who's here on behalf of I mean, I know you're here on behalf of the applicant. Is the
I
applicant here?
am here on behalf of the applicant, Total Image Solutions. Ms. Tally, I know that you sent the Zoom link to Mackenzie Smith, and she forwarded it to the person who's going to be appearing on behalf of Total Image Solutions. They don't appear to be here. So, since we learned last time, I can't testify on behalf of Total Image Solutions. I'll have to ask for another continuance because the person who's supposed to be here is Jason Dawson, and apparently he's not here.
Do you want to at least let the other application proceed, and can you reach out to and see if Mr. Dawson can be found, or can we contact him to have him participate rather than reschedule it again?
I can try. I will try.
Okay. All right, that's fine. And then I'm gonna make you an attendee. If you can reach Mr. Dawson, you can send me a message in chat.
Okay.
And if not, if you can't reach him and you want to recuse it, send me a message in chat, and we will bring it to the board's member and give you a date to carry it to.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Just remember, Mr. Berkowitz, if there's a third time, you're going to have to testify. There's no choice.
Okay. I'm ready, willing, and able. Thank you very much. Thank you for your consideration. I will try to contact Mr. Dawson.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that brings us to the application of Total Image Solutions. I'm
Nope,
sorry. We just went through that. I'm sorry. That 6 Depot Square LLC for 6 Depot Square.
Okay, Alan Trembulak, I've made you an attendee. Alan, who's here on behalf of your applicant? Alan, you've muted. All right, I just unmuted you, Alan.
Okay, can you hear me, Janice?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can't see who's here, but we should have 4 people. Samer Hanini.
Okay, so hold on just a second. Yes, I see he's here. I will unmute him. I cannot make him a panelist. Who else?
Brandon Warsofsky.
Okay.
Matthew Seckler and TJ Ritchie.
I don't see Mr. Seckler.
Okay, he might be a little bit late. I think he has another meeting tonight that he's finishing up.
Okay.
But should join us eventually, hopefully before we need him.
Okay.
So, okay.
Let me get your exhibits ready. All right. So you want to go with the planning exhibit that you sent me today, right?
Yes. That would be probably our last exhibit, but
Oh, okay. That's the
care how
last.
you want to mark them, Janice.
All right, let me just make sure. And then Hanini Group, the Hanini Group experience is the one that you want to present first. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's mark. Let me go through what I have here. for the record.
Janice, can I just ask a question, Janice, while you're marking the exhibits?
Yeah.
Why didn't we have our consultant, Mr. Giosa, look at the parking study?
Well, we can certainly do that if you want. Okay, I just didn't, I had, because they really started off with 4 parking spaces. If the board feels that we need to bring Mr. Giosa in, we can certainly bring him in.
Well, it's not so much the on-site parking, it's the effect of the business and the apartment increase in size on the overall area that I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Okay. So the exhibits, I marked them as A1 is the application, A2 is the certification of taxes paid, A3 is the proof of publication, A4 is the affidavit of service, A5 is the survey prepared by partner engineers dated 9/28/2020. A6 is the site plan prepared by Brick Studios. A7 is the report from the Environmental Commission. A8 is the report from Suburban Engineers dated May 25th. A9 is the report from the Development Review Committee dated June 9th. A10 is the report from the Historic Preservation Commission dated August 27th. A11 is the traffic and parking assessment prepared by Stonefield Engineers dated June 29th. And A12 is the planning report dated September 7th, 2021. Although I mismarked the first page of my new report. So A13 will be the Hanini Group experience. Is this a PowerPoint?
Yes.
And A14 will be, what do we call A14?
It's planning exhibits.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Before you begin, how many slides are there in the Hanini group experience, if you know?
It
I
says
do
12.
know.
It says 12 here. Okay, Alan, if you want to proceed.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Alan Trembulac. I am proud to be appearing this evening to present this application on behalf of my client, 6 Depot Square LLC.
So you can't get on here because I can get their attention and.
Who's speaking?
I'm hearing somebody.
Sounds like Mr. Berkowitz.
Yeah, and Mr. Berkowitz, I'm gonna.
Oh boy.
All right.
That's
I'm gonna
frustrating.
mute him. All right.
There you go.
I think that should be good.
Alan, before you jump back into it, sorry, Ms. Telly, if we can try to add Samar Hanini, I think he's trying to fix his video, and from the planner side, John Korek should be here from Stonefield also, if you can add them, please.
I got John Korek, but Mr. Hanini, it doesn't allow me to make you a, I can't make you a panelist for some reason the way but I can unmute you. So Mr. Hanini, you are unmuted and you should be able to speak, but for some reason, the way your system is set up or what it doesn't allow me to make you a panelist. Can you hear us? Because you are unmuted. I don't
Maybe
hear.
necessary for him to sign off and to sign back in.
Oh, yeah, why don't you have him try that?
Okay, then he'll keep working on that. We can definitely make sure we.
You know what? Can you give me an email address for him and I will send him yeah, I'll try sending him the link too.
Sure, it would be Samer, S-A-M-E-R, at hanini.com.
Okay, I'll try.
Thank you.
Okay. Should I continue?
Yep.
Okay, maybe I'll speak slowly to give Mr. Hanini time to connect to the meeting. But as I said, I'm very pleased to be presenting this application tonight on behalf of 6 Depot Square LLC. This is an application for site plan approval with several variances for the property commonly known as 6 Depot Square, located at the corner of Walnut Street and Depot Square. The property is located in the C2 General Business and Light Manufacturing Zone District and contains a 3-story mixed-use building, which was originally constructed in 1904. As we all know, this building for many years was occupied on the first floor, at least, by the Trumpets Jazz Club. Trumpets ceased operations and closed its doors several years ago, and since then the building has been vacant, and the overall condition of the building and the property in general has been in a state of significant decline and serious neglect. My client, the applicant, purchased this property earlier this year with plans to change the current condition dramatically and to substantially renovate, rehabilitate, and improve this property. The applicant, 6 Depot Square LLC, is an affiliate of a real estate development firm called the Hanini Group, which, as you'll hear from our first witness, has a proven track record for restoring and rehabilitating historic properties in the city of Newark, as well as other communities in New Jersey. It's really an area of specialty and very important part of my client's business involves historic rehabilitation. And that's one of the things which attracted the company to acquire this property earlier this year, with plans to restore the building to what is essentially its original design, particularly on the Walnut Street facade, as the building was originally constructed in 1904. That facade was substantially modified when Trumpets acquired the building and opened the jazz club, and I think we have to say substantially modified in a very detrimental way, particularly with respect to the historic facade on the Walnut Street side. My client intends to change that and restore the original historic facade on Walnut Street, and also to make various other changes to the building. As you'll hear, the applicant intends to renovate the first floor of the building to create a restaurant and a separate cafe, along with an outdoor seating area covered by a pergola and a retractable roof on the Depot Square side of the building. In addition, the applicant intends to convert the second and third floors from what are currently 2 3-bedroom apartments to 4 2-bedroom apartments. I think it's important to note that we are not proposing any expansion in the overall size of the building. We are just proposing a change in the uses of the building, along with various other improvements, as I've already mentioned, as you'll hear the witnesses explain in detail. So, as I said, we're seeking site plan approval, and in addition, we're also seeking 4 variances. We have 2 parking variances, I think a relatively minor sign variance, and a variance to allow the pergola to be constructed on the property, which is essentially an accessory structure, which would be located in the front yard. And since this is a corner property, it creates a number of challenges as a corner lot with 2 front yards, et cetera, with very little room on the property for parking. The parking variance, admittedly, is the most significant variance we're seeking. The property historically has only been able to accommodate several on-site parking spaces. Consequently, the prior uses have relied upon off-site parking resources. And as you'll hear from our traffic engineer from Stonefield Engineering, which conducted a very extensive study of existing parking resources in the vicinity, we'll be able to demonstrate, first of all, that the parking requirement for our proposed use is essentially the same as the parking requirement for the prior use of the building when it was occupied by Trumpet. So we're not creating any additional parking demand for the uses that we're proposing to essentially take the place of Trumpets. We'll also demonstrate, I think, pretty clearly that there is in fact adequate parking available for the applicant's proposed use through the on-street parking and other parking resources in the area. I intend to be presenting 4 witnesses tonight, starting with hopefully Samar Hanini, who's principal in the Hanini Group, who will discuss in general what his company would like to do with the property. Second witness will be Brandon Warsofsky, who's the architect who prepared the site plans and the architectural drawings that have been submitted with the application. Our third witness will be a traffic engineer, either Matt Seckler or John Korak from Stonefield Engineering. And lastly, we'll have planning testimony from TJ Ricci, who's a professional planner also associated with the Stonefield Engineering firm. So, having said that, Mr. Chairman, I would proceed by calling as my first witness, Samar Hanini.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about the technical difficulties. For some reason, my computer isn't working properly.
Mr. Hanini, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you please raise your right hand, sir?
Sure.
Do you solemnly swear? That is your right hand.
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Would you please state your full name and business affiliation for the record?
Sure. My name is Samar Hanini. I'm a partner in the Hanini Group located in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay. Mr. Hanini, if you can please keep your voice up. You're a little bit lower than the rest of the members in terms of volume. So
I apologize. Is this better?
a little bit, but
Can you
I'll
get
raise-
closer? Can you get closer to the mic?
I'm actually going. My computer, like I said, is not working properly for some reason. I'm going through my phone, so maybe that's the.
well,
Maybe that's
just try and keep your voice up, and
I'll try my best.
we'll let you know when we stop hearing you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Hanini, are you one of the owners of 6 Depot Square LLC?
Yes, I'm a partner on there.
Okay. And does the LLC own the property located at 6 Depot Square?
Yes.
And when did the company acquire that property?
It's been about a couple months now.
Okay. And I think I think you already identified yourself as a principal in the real estate development company known as the Hanini Group. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. How long has the Hanini Group been involved in real estate development?
We started the business about over 15 years ago in downtown Newark.
Okay. And can you just describe for the board, utilizing, I assume, the exhibit that the PowerPoint, which is displayed on the screen, the experience of your company in real estate development, and in particular with respect to rehabilitation or restoration of historic buildings, and talk about some of the projects you've done.
Sure. We're a design build firm that started in Newark roughly 2004. We're a family-owned business. It's the partnership is me and my two brothers. We have an in-house architecture, construction, and property management. For the most part, we've been focused on the Essex County area since we started. Much of our work has been in downtown Newark. And a lot of the buildings that we've taken are historical buildings that, you know, are over 100 years old. And what we typically do is we do full gut rehabs of the assets. And, you know, we do a lot of historical tax credits and historical restorations. A lot of the projects that we work on have historical tax credits or new market tax credits or different programs from the city or the state. We pride ourselves in really rolling up our sleeves and doing what's best for the asset. To this date, we haven't demolished any buildings, any historical buildings, where we take a lot of pride in trying to maintain the history of the buildings, you know, when they were built. We've won numerous awards for a lot of our projects. And not only do we focus a lot on keeping the buildings historic, we've been fortunate in all of our projects to involve the community. All of our projects have maintained over 50% minority, 50% local workforce to Essex County. That's something we're really proud of. And we've created, in all of our projects, we've created over 1,000 permanent jobs. So, so these sort of things are something as a company, we have this like social impact mission that we try to constantly maintain in every one of our projects. Not only with the local workforce, but we've also had numerous programs where we do mentorship or we do training or what have you with local, you know, high schools or vocational schools or labor training programs. We've tried on all of our projects to do that. If you want to look through the slide here, you can see some more examples of projects.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the Haynes project. The Haynes, well, at least this is showing just the track record from 2004. Can you guys just hold on? My daughter came in and she. Kenzie, go on the other. Okay. She wants to watch her iPad right now. Go inside. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I apologize again. Okay, so this is the Haynes project. The Haynes project is one of the largest buildings in downtown Newark. It's a huge footprint. On the first floor, the anchor tenant is Whole Foods. And can you hold on just 1 second? I'm sorry. My apologies. I had to negotiate with a 5-year-old in a couple of minutes.
Mr. Hanini, I think you should just let her present for you.
I think so. Better job. Okay. So the Haynes project, the main anchor tenant is Whole Foods, as you guys could see. We also have Rutgers art schools in there, and we also have Barnes and Nobles. This was a very large project that sat around for about 30 years vacant. It was the old Haynes department store. We ended up converting this to commercial on the first 2 floors and residential on the above floors. We did this with historical tax credits, new market tax credits, low-income housing tax credits. It was a real complicated project. We did this in partnership with L&M, and our investors were Prudential, Citibank. This was a real game changer for downtown Newark. This is one of our a project that we're very proud of. Let's switch on to the next slides. Go on to the next, please. Keep going.
Next.
It just gives you just a track record of some of the works. This is the whole the Haynes project that we spoke about. Keep going. This is these are a few projects on Market Street, across the street from the arena, the Columbian and the Madison buildings. These both won awards. They were actually listed on the National Park Service's website for restoration. So we're really proud of this. We did I think we went above and beyond what was expected from the National Park Service to restore. All this work, all the brickwork was redone. All of the carpentry work was redone in the windows. This is a very nice project. The main tenant here was Dinosaur Barbecue. And again, it's across the street from the Prudential Center. Next, please. This is the Hotel Indigo. This is another really exciting project. This was the old National Bank building. It sat vacant for about 20 years. We converted this into the hotel. And again, this also won an award for engineering and for restoration. In this particular project, we did a really extensive training program with a vocational school. We took 30 kids that were in vocational school. We put them through training through Essex County College for hospitality. This was a really interesting project because we were able to bring the social in with the restoration. Next, please. This is the Passaic Bank building, the People's Bank building. I'm sorry. This is the tallest building in Passaic County. Also sat vacant for a number of years. We did this project after the Hotel Indigo. Had similar problems with the developers. The previous developer did full historical restoration on this, historical tax credits, new market tax credits, and the Board of Education is our tenant on this one. Next, please. And this is as a company, we have in-house development, design, build, construction, and property management. So we're as like a full turnkey development firm. Next, please. Just gives you some more of our bios. Next, please. And then this is just some of the community partners that we work with. We try to be a good developer. So whatever cities we work in, whatever groups that are affiliated to the properties or around the neighborhood, we try to really participate with them. And we've worked with many projects in and around Newark and Essex County. Next, please. That covers our portfolio. And I welcome you guys to visit our website and our LinkedIn page, and we constantly update our sites with new information and things like that.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Mr. Hanini. So can you tell us what it is that attracted you to this property in Montclair? I assume this is the first project you're doing in the town of Montclair. Is that correct?
Correct. Okay. So we've always liked Montclair. I mean, I've lived in Newark for many years. My parents live in West Orange. So when we were going to buy a house, we were looking to buy Montclair. Unfortunately, Montclair is a tough market now. I wasn't able to buy a house there. I ended up landing in West Orange. But we're always, my wife and I and children are always in Montclair for lunch, dinner. We like going there on the weekend markets. I think it's a very vibrant city with a lot of potential. And us as a development firm out of Newark, we're looking to expand outwards. And the best places we feel are within like 10, 20 minutes of our office. We're very concentrated on our area. We don't want to expand too far out because then it loses our ability to deliver a good product. So Montclair is an area that we're very interested in expanding.
Anything in particular regarding this property that was appealing to you other than an opportunity to sort of get your feet wet in
Right.
Montclair?
Well, what we liked about this building is, first of all, it's a historical building, which as you can see, we're very interested in. And second is the empty lot next door to it, the old parking lot where they had the little turnabout there. With COVID, you start thinking of how you can work with outdoor spaces and things like that. And we feel that the outdoor terrace there's a huge opportunity there for outdoor seating, and that's why we proposed an outdoor space on this project.
Okay. Just talk a little bit, if you can, just in general sense, because obviously our next witness is going to, discuss the plans in detail, but just in a general sense, explain for the board what it is you're proposing to do with the building and the changes that you're seeking to make in the use and occupancy of the building.
Sure. It's an existing 4-story building. The idea is to make the 4 apartments upstairs full gut rehab, and I don't know if any of you guys have visited the building or upstairs, but it's in a need of full development. So the idea is we've gutted out the interior of the space. We're going to be restoring the building's facade, redoing a lot of the millwork on the outside, fixing the cornice, painting the cornice, restoring the brick, exposing any of the exterior brick that has been painted or that needs pointing or work. And then we would put all new storefronts and replace all the brickwork where needed. And we're trying to eliminate any of the added on details after it was built. Like there was a small cornice on the parking lot side, which we removed because that wasn't original. What we're trying to do is just try to bring back the history of the building.
Okay. And what are you proposing for the first floor of the building to replace what used to be the Trumpets Jazz Club?
So Trumpets had originally closed off the facade of the first floor. So just recently we demoed the whole first floor facade and we brought back the original open space. So the idea is to put a smaller cafe on the front side of the building, and on the rear would be a larger tenant. So the front space is, I think, 600 to 700 square feet. So a smaller cafe, or it doesn't have to be a cafe. It would be some sort of smaller use. And then the rear of the space is a couple thousand feet, which would be an anchor tenant, and they would have more access to the terrace space.
Okay. Have you identified any prospective tenants or entered into any lease agreements with proposed tenants for the first floor?
For the first floor, yes, we are talking to a restaurant user that would take the rear space. The front space, we still haven't confirmed that yet.
Okay. All right, and then last thing I just wanted to ask you about is on-site parking. What is being proposed in terms of on-site parking spaces pursuant to the plan that the board will be reviewing in a few minutes?
Right now, we're showing 2 spaces that are tandem parked. And I know parking is an issue. We feel this particular site, because its proximity to the train and the proximity to the markets and stuff, ideally we'd like to maximize on the terrace. So the plan that you're seeing here is showing 2 parking spaces that are tandem.
Okay. And you're going to have a total of 4 residential tenants on the upper floors, correct? I'm sure the board would want to know what plans we have or you have in order to provide parking for those 4 residential tenants.
So we're talking to some neighboring properties to do to rent spaces from them, or the other option is maybe to do some of the permit parking that the city has.
Specifically, the overnight parking permits that would be available for purchase, which would allow your tenants to park overnight in the Walnut Street lots, correct?
Yes.
Your intention is to, is it safe to say that your goal here is to provide at least 1 parking space for each of the 4 tenants?
That is the intent, correct.
Okay, all right. And you're hopeful of doing that either through off-site agreements with other properties in the neighborhood, or if if that's unsuccessful, to acquire overnight parking permits for your residential tenants.
That's accurate, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that's all I have for Mr. Sonini, Mr. Chairman.
I'll say,
Any questions from the
there you
board?
go.
I have a question. I'll start. Do you generally buy and hold your properties? Would that be your intent with this building?
Yes, for the most part, we do not sell our assets. We buy and hold, and we do our own property management. So we don't farm out any of the property management.
This seems a little small compared to other things that you've done.
No, we have properties as small as 1 unit, a brownstone, all the way up to, 100 units. So we're pretty much focused on geographic location to our proximity to the office.
Did you demolish the brick on the Walnut Street side?
We did that. I think we did that about a week ago. So we opened up the infill. The infill apparently wasn't original. The original was the columns. So you had left column, and you have a cast iron column in the middle, and then the right side. It's not the column. It's the left wall, right wall, and a center cast iron column.
Did you get water in your basement with this flooding?
We did. We got a little bit of water, yes.
A little bit or a lot?
I think we got about 6 inches, because some of our sump pumps weren't working because of our power issues, and we were just trying to. Unfortunately, in the middle of construction, sometimes wires get cut and things aren't done right. So hopefully, once we kind of get in there and start doing the work, we'll make sure we have more permanent power to deal with any future flooding.
Because your kitchens are going to be down there with your expensive kitchen material, and I understand that both Egan's and Halcyon restaurants on the blocks had extreme flooding. So is that something you're aware of?
Yes, I mean we've done a lot of kitchens in a lot of our basements, and for the most part, we tried to make sure, in case of flooding, that we could accommodate those. So we try to raise up any of the equipment where possible. Some things obviously you can't raise up, and we'll have to just work with those. And we're typically in this situation, because of of flooding, we'll probably put in some extensive like French drains or something like that. In one of the projects we did in Passaic, we actually have a stream running under the building, and we did extensive work to make sure we could accommodate for future flooding.
Where does the water go then?
It goes to the sewer system. So we'll pump it out, and it goes into the storm system.
I was curious, if you are building according to current standards, knowing the new need for protection against flooding, I'm not so sure that thinking about it is really enough. I think probably it should be something that that you definitely did in terms of making sure that any equipment is protected in the structure of the building when you do it.
Yeah, I mean, we have our engineer is working on extensive engineering drawings to make sure that we are accommodating any of the flood requirements.
How tall is the ceiling in the basement?
It's actually, there's 2 different heights. The front is a little bit lower. It's roughly like 8 feet in the front, and in the back, I want to say it's about 9 feet. But we have Brandon, our architect, online. Maybe we could clarify that if I'm off. But roughly that amount. And we'll end up doing probably two sump pump systems, one in the front and one in the back.
Well, I'd be concerned about your neighbors as well. If you start pumping, what would be the impact on? There's a 3, maybe a 6-family house right next door to you, and of course there's the fire department. I mean, I guess the emergency medical people across the street and all of that. So.
Right. Well, fortunately, we haven't. I mean, we've only owned it for a short time, but from what we saw, there hasn't been flooding in the past. Like when we were touring the building, and we've probably been in this process for close to 6 months now, none of the existing furniture was flooded. Like they actually had offices down there, they had kitchen equipment, they had a lot of equipment in general, and nothing was flooded. I think the flooding was due to our maybe lack of power, or because the storm was just so severe. You know, I mean, in our portfolio, we've had buildings that never flooded in the past 15 years flood this past storm. So it was a tough one. So that's, for the most part, we're fairly comfortable with this building, but you never know with the way storms are going these days.
I know the owner of the building of the Red Eye, where the
Right.
Red Eye is, and the 2 apartments above that, and they had no flooding this past storm. So,
And keep in mind, we had our storefront was open, some of the windows were open, so maybe a lot of our water was due to that. Obviously in construction, not everything is watertight, and water does get in. Because actually the sidewalk is demoed. Well, part of the sidewalk is the facade is demoed. So maybe we had a lot of run-in water from the sidewalk alone.
Thank you.
Mr. Hanini, you mentioned social impact in your developments, and what sort of social impact are you contemplating for this development?
Honestly, this is a smaller project. We don't know what role we could play on a social impact. If there is something that you guys recommend, I mean, we're all ears. We like to make sure that we're respectful of the community. So if there's any sort of things that that happens on the block or in the area, we would definitely entertain it. I know the market's pretty active. I mean, my wife and kids, we went there a couple weeks ago. We've been going this past summer. It's a great location. I'm looking forward to when the restaurants do open, that they're able to welcome people that come to the market to the location.
Other questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public of Mr. Hanini about what he has testified to this evening? Janice, we're opening it up. Can't hear you if you're talking.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear someone. Who's calling? Who's speaking?
My name is Jeff Dresner. I'm the owner of N Depot Square, the adjacent 6-unit building.
Yes, you have a
Can you hear me?
question for Mr. Hanini about what he's testified to.
Well, I guess there's some design questions that I had.
Well, your questions about the design might be more properly directed to an architect. Do you have questions about, the things that Mr. Hanini spoke about just now?
No, maybe I'll save my comments after the architect, I guess, goes.
He'll be the next witness, sir.
Okay.
Any other
Okay, so
questions
I'll-
from the public? And we will come back to you, sir.
Are there
Okay, thank you.
are there any other comments? I mean, I should say questions. If not, attendees, I'm going to mute you. Okay.
All right, Mr. Tremula, next witness.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My next witness is Brandon Morsovsky.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you see me, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes, can see you and I can hear you.
Terrific. Would you please raise your right hand, and do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Would you please state your full name and business affiliation for the record?
My name is Brandon Warshawski. I'm the architect at Brick Studios. I'm the project architect for this project. I'm an AIA architect. My registration is in New Jersey and is current and in good standing. I have a Bachelor of Architecture degree from the New Jersey Institute of Technology, and I have appeared before boards similar to this, although not this board before, in the past.
When were you first licensed as an architect in New Jersey?
I first received my license in New Jersey in 2017.
You've been practicing architecture ever since?
Yes, I have.
And your license is in good standing today?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, and as you indicated, you've been testified before other planning boards and boards of adjustment in the state of New Jersey?
That is correct.
And in all those prior applications, have you been accepted as an expert in the field of architecture?
Yes, I have been.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd offer Mr. Warshawski as a expert architect.
We'll accept him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Brandon, you prepared the site plan drawings submitted with this application, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and did you also attend the meeting of the Development Review Committee when the site plan drawings were reviewed by that committee?
Yes, I did.
And you also attend the meeting or meetings of the Historic Preservation Commission when the plans were reviewed?
Yes, I did.
All right, and as a result of the various reviews preceding tonight's meeting, did you subsequently prepare and submit revised plans to address the comments and concerns, particularly of the Development Review Committee?
Yes, and those revised drawings are what are in front of us now.
And those have a revision date of August 9th, 2021, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. So as you indicated, the plans are on the screen, and I'd like you to review the plans with the board, I guess starting with the discussion of the existing conditions on the property, or starting wherever you feel like you'd like to start.
Absolutely. I think that's a great spot, starting with the existing conditions. So we have an existing building, as it was already discussed. It is an existing 3-story building. It fronts on Walnut Street and on Depot Square, with a small parking roundabout in the front of the building on the Depot Square side. The ground floor existing is a former Trumpets Jazz Club space that occupied the entire first floor. And the basement level as part of their service storage area. On the upper floors, the second and third floor, each existing contained 1 apartment unit. And we are proposing creating 2 apartment units on each of the existing second and third floors. And we are not proposing any volumetric additions to the building. So the building is existing, and the work to the building will be limited to interior fit out and exterior modifications to the facade as are required based on the condition, based on some of the considerations of the Historic Review Committee, and on other good practices such as good waterproofing and floodproofing practices. We are proposing to restore the Walnut Street storefront to the a similar state as it historically was observed, which we do present. I don't know, Janice, if you want to flip around, I think on the 7th sheet, we have that.
There you go.
Historic elevation, as well as some existing photos on the sheet that we're looking at here. And looking here, we can see that first floor where the Walnut Street facade has been completely covered over as part of the renovation to create the Jazz Club, which occurred, I believe, in early 1990. And then on, if you go to the, sorry to jump around, the seventh sheet, we show a historic elevation.
All right.
I think that's sheet A dash
sorry.
0.1.
A 0.1.
Sheet 7 though, right?
I think you just passed it.
I did. I went too far.
Sheet 8, maybe, I'm sorry.
Is this it?
Yes. And so we took our inspiration from the historic documentation as part of the historic survey that was done in the 80s in Montclair, as well as some design inspiration from some of the older details, such as the details observed at the Walnut Street station across the way, trying to draw some inspiration from the ironwork details that we see there at the train station. So as far as the site plan goes, the proposal is introducing a new retractable pergola area in the area, which is currently a turnaround driveway. That will be a four-season outdoor dining space that will be exclusively for the use of the restaurant or the rear first floor tenant. The canopy is retractable and would allow for natural light, for air, for an activation during the daytime as well as at nighttime, and it can extend for weather protection in rain and other weather. The entrance to the restaurant space and the outdoor dining space is from the Depot Square side of the frontage. And the entrance for the cafe space is exclusively through the front facade, the building portion on Walnut Street. We're proposing new building lighting to illuminate the area of the pergola, as well as some low pole-mounted lights in the service area to illuminate the trash enclosure, the driveway area, proper levels that are required, as well as a very specific cutoff pattern to eliminate any kind of glare on the adjoining properties. We're maintaining the mature screening plantings that exist along the Depot Square side, and using that as a screening mechanism to separate the building from the driveway and the outdoor seating area. Janice, you could either zoom in on the renderings over here or back to the site plan.
You mean here? The
Yes.
rendering on this page? Okay.
Correct. We're proposing a small knee wall with plantings that are going around the perimeter to separate the seating area from the sidewalk, but all of the occupancy exists within the boundaries of the property. There would be no sidewalk cafe occupancy proposed. And if you go back around to the site plan, we reevaluated based on the board engineer's comments, the amount of impervious surface that we were introducing with the by taking away the existing green area. We're now attempting to replace that with new landscaped area around the parking and around the rear of the building. Right there is perfect. So anything shown in green there is proposed landscape area, which keeps our total impervious at almost the same number that is existing today.
Mr. Rashevsky, can I have a question about this page. Your point, you see where I'm
Yes, I did see your comment on that. The new raised access flooring, I think is what you mean there.
Yes.
Yes, I'll chalk that up to a drafting error. The previous design had this on a pedestal system to create a seating area. So that would have been that raised access flooring that is now replaced with landscape area.
So that's going to be, when you say landscape area, it's going to be a grass area?
Grass area.
Okay. Okay,
And then we're introducing those screening elements, those plants around the corner.
those are here,
Correct.
over here. Okay,
And then those in the front next to the cars, those are existing, and those are mature plants that we're going to keep as that screening element from the neighbor.
What are you proposing for landscaping around the outdoor seating area and the knee wall?
Around the outdoor seating area and the knee wall, we're proposing a masonry planter, a concrete planter. The detail is actually on the left side, what that we're looking at right now. That would have planting in the middle, soil, and be able to take a little bit of rainwater. We're proposing finishing that on the outside with a board formed concrete look. So it'll look like the imprint of wood plank grain across the horizontal of the small planter wall. And that's a limit of about 2 or 2.5 feet based on the elevation around. So nothing in excess of 4 feet.
and that's gonna be planted with boxwood?
And we'll put little boxwoods in there.
Okay. While we're looking at the site plan, unless you wanted to go into something else, I was going to ask you to discuss the trash enclosure and what's proposed and where that's proposed.
Absolutely. So we also revised the trash enclosure, both the location and the construction of that to be more respectful of the neighbor's building. We pulled it away from the property line and closer up against the subject building, and we've revised the details to conform to the requirements of Montclair trash enclosures. So I think one of the waivers that we're seeking, we would be happy to comply with the requirements for the wood fence enclosure with a small roof over the trash enclosure.
All right. So are you basically saying that the trash enclosure will comply with the requirements of the Montclair ordinance so that no waiver would be requested or required?
That would be our intent.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question about that trash enclosure. It still strikes me that it's right next to the neighbor's building and there's lots of windows on that side. Why don't you push it back away from the windows of your neighbor's apartment building? It's going to be a smelly garbage for, commercial restaurant waste.
We're trying to minimize the impact of impervious surface by minimizing the driveway as well as creating new screening elements. So those smaller circles that you see up against the property line are the new junipers that we'd be planting there as a screening element, and as well as complying with the ordinance for the construction of the enclosure. It should provide satisfactory screening and separation away from the neighbor's building. Since it is also the location, I think right now, the existing for the building was actually up against the property line.
You keep talking about what the existing building was like. The existing building hasn't been in operation for years. So this is a new building as far as I'm concerned, and relating it back to the existing building has no meaning to me because Trumpets has not been in operation for forever.
And we certainly do want to conform to the requirements where we can. So, such as the enclosure and the construction of that. If there's a setback requirement, also, I'm not sure that we acknowledged that one, but would be happy to look at it to meet such a requirement.
Are there any special kind of garbage containers that are used for restaurants that minimize the odors that come from garbage containers? Anything that's uniquely built for a restaurant?
These would be containers that have covers over the top. So in addition to the roof and the screening elements, these containers are contained themselves with a lid or a top So they're not, open to the air like, a dumpster might be. So that would be beneficial to mitigating the travel of any of that.
And is there a roof on this enclosure?
In complying and not asking for the waiver for the ordinance, we would be committing to putting a roof over the trash enclosure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a quick question about the canopy?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you showed something. I thought it had a gutter on the edge. I can't find it in the plan set, but there is, when water runs down this thing, it's going to run toward the southern part of or the east part of the plan there. Is that picked up in a gutter? I was wondering what happened.
There's an integral rain management system, and then the water would travel down one of the posts, and we'd be picking it up.
Yeah, I thought I saw that on something you showed. I just didn't see it in the plan set. And then I'll wait. Are you guys going to have an engineer testify? Or I did have a question about the new inlet, but I'll wait until the civil. Are you guys going to have a civil engineer?
We don't plan to call a civil engineer, Mr. Anawali. Brandon may be able to answer your question.
Yeah, okay, then, well, here's an architecture question. How does that thing roll up? Can you explain how this retractable roof works and what it would look like when it's up or down?
Absolutely, and I believe there would be a detail of it actually on this same sheet. If you can please go over to the top left portion of this sheet. So it is a rigid frame.
What sheet is that in our packet? Can you tell me what the drawing number is?
E0.2, the third sheet.
Thanks.
And so it's a rigid frame that remains fixed, and the canopy fabric itself is on, let's call it parallel bars that run along these rigid frame tracks. So the whole thing will retract back to the high point, and the fabric drapes between those bars as it retracts.
Awesome, thanks a lot. And then I guess since there's no civil, there's a new inlet. Are you going to retain any of that water on site, or is that just going to be piped out off site?
There is an existing connection, so we are planning on attaching to that existing storm connection for our management. And actually reusing, I think, some of the catch basins that are there on site.
Okay, and then do you have a net zero add of impervious? I'm not sure if you might have said that. I apologize if you said that already.
We have a net of about a net loss of about 50 square feet.
50, okay.
50.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I have a question. Oh, sorry. What is the capacity of the outdoor area that has the overhang where those round tables are?
Of the outdoor area specifically, I don't know if I have that broken up. We're calling it out as a 58 seat total capacity for the restaurant.
That would be indoors and outdoors?
Indoors and outdoors.
Oh, okay.
Say less 20 for the indoors based on the table counts, or 38 outdoor.
I think it's 40 outdoor actually, and
40
20
outdoor.
indoor.
Okay.
Or 18 indoor.
Okay. And the this retractable roof can withstand like a foot of snow? What happens when it snows?
It would not be designed to withstand a foot of snow. It would be drawn back in the retracted position to allow the snow to fall onto the patio.
Okay, I think you said it's a 4-season outdoor area. So, but if it snowed, then it become,
a flurry and a foot are a bit different. With some outdoor heaters, there would be some amount of melt, and you can manage a half an inch probably on it, but I wouldn't try to stick out the blizzard under here.
Okay.
On those same lines, can you please explain what the sides of the pergola area will look like in the winter Is there going to be plastic sheeting, something that will enclose the whole thing, or what?
I believe the applicant was looking at some, semi-permanent fixtures that can be attached, that they would be more rigid, clear panels. It's an option that comes with the pergola system for enclosure, but would be something that would be installed and removed as needed seasonally, not something that would be a permanent enclosure type.
I mean, it gets pretty cold starting in November, from November to, say, March. You'd have to have some kind of walls up. Is that what you're suggesting that would happen?
Or outdoor heaters would be part of that strategy to control the climate there.
Janice, does it make a difference if there are walls, whether they're clear plastic or whatever, on the 3 sides that are exposed during the winter? Does that change the nature of the outdoor area?
I think it becomes a building. We weren't really considering this a building because it's an open roof and it doesn't have sides. I think if you enclose it like that, it becomes a building.
And does it make a difference whether it's a temporary or not? It just
No. I think what I'm concerned about is we're predicating all this upon, it's actually 60 seats. This plan shows 60 seats if you count up all the seats. But as you can see, yeah, as you can see, there's extra space. So I don't, where you can easily add more tables because there's more space than you have seated.
If you're looking maybe on the right side where there's no table, some amount of that is the entrance access, which is the reason that there are no seats. That would probably end up being small area for waiting for a hostess stand. So that's why we're not showing that as contributing to the seat count in the area. Because again, this is the only entrance point to the restaurant.
Are you predicating the seat count on COVID restrictions and distancing?
Not specifically. Just good circulation. Also that there's some structural supports for the pergola system that we have to manage around, so that there's clear circulation, for the patrons, for the staff bringing trays out, that it's not jammed in there.
So clearly this application is for 60 spaces and no more than, 60 seats and no more than 60 seats. Because if you have more than 60 seats, then you have a parking variance. So I think it's important that we have an accurate count for the number of seats for the restaurant and the cafe.
Well, Janice, I think
actually, doesn't the cafe have, of course, we've got 40 seats out in the outdoor space. We've got 20 seats on the restaurant space, even though one of those tables seems very close to the stairwell. But and then aren't there an additional, so that's your 60 seats right there, but aren't there an additional 6 seats in the cafe space?
Well, you have 6 seats in the cafe space and then all these seats back here for the cafe. So I think that it's,
we call that out as 16 seats for the cafe. Yes.
Yeah.
I think if I can just jump in here, because Janice, your memo, I think correctly points out that the cafe will have a total of 20 seats and the restaurant will have a total of 58, as shown on these plans, which would make for a total of 78 seats for the entirety of the first floor, including the outdoor areas.
And
that's what we're seeking approval for.
Also keep in mind, we're not showing a lot of the furniture or the fixtures for the restaurant here. I mean, we just put the tables in place. They're gonna have, besides the columns and other things in the dining area, it's gonna take up a lot of space. Like the kitchen might be a little bit larger than what you're showing here. We're just trying to make sure we have enough room to add additional things when we finalize the tenant.
So we've got 78 spaces, Janice. So do we need a variance that we're not showing?
No, I think there's a variance. But I just want to make sure we have the correct number of seats that are associated with this variant, because there is a parking variance.
Right, and we did notice the parking variance for the correct.
Right.
Yes.
Because in addition to this, you have the additional parking for the 2 additional apartments.
And could you clarify? I think the parking study says that the the 4 apartments yield 8 needed spaces. Yet on this architectural plan, it says 6 needed spaces. So I don't know, which is it?
And-
I'll let Brandon answer. I think based on the RSIS requirements, a 2-bedroom apartment would require 1.5 spaces, which would make for a total of 6 required in my understanding. But Brandon, you correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I will just refer you to your own parking study, says 8 are needed.
You're referring to the Stonefield report?
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
I would defer that response to our traffic engineer when he begins, but I would confirm, at least based on my drawing, we are calling for 6 required. As Alan said, 1.5 per unit per RSIS. For a 2-bed unit times 4 units is 6 required.
Yeah.
But I will defer to my expert to address that fully.
Yeah, your expert refers to 2 parking spaces per 2-bedroom unit and references the RSIS.
Yep. So I'd like to get clear exactly how many seats you have indoors, outdoors, and with respect to the cafe and with respect to the apartments, because it's not clear in my mind exactly where each of the parking needs come from.
I would confirm what Ms. Talley has in her report for the variance, stating that it would require 33 parking spaces. Total demand for the site is 33, 20 spaces for the restaurant, 7 spaces for the cafe, and 6 spaces for the apartments.
So the potential is that there's 2 missing there if your parking guy is correct.
And yes, and that's per Ms. Talley's report.
I might have been relying on what was in your plan, so
Of course.
I'll take another look at that.
Okay.
Mr. Tremulak, were you finished with your questions for the witness? I know we believe we interrupted you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there are 1 or 2 more things I'd like Mr. Wachowski to just discuss. First would be the signage that's proposed for the building, including the 1 sign that requires a variance. Can you discuss those details?
Yes, we are requesting a variance for the signage on the Depot Square side in order to properly provide a wayfinding and a location into the restaurant space through the outdoor seating area. So Janice, if you wouldn't mind to go back to that sheet number 8, A0.1, that has the renderings in that axonometric. So we're proposing some freestanding lettered signs on the edge of the pergola on the Depot Square side, which is exactly right there. That would be illuminated letters that are illuminated from below, not internally illuminated. Freestanding, about 11-inch tall letters with the name of the restaurant. And those would be, which is not allowed by your ordinance, those would be standing on top of the beam, the low side of the pergola.
So that's the sign that requires the variance.
We feel that that's a stronger approach than placing the signage on the building, as it's a little more set away from the actual ingress point.
Will the building have a name?
The building itself, it is not intended would have a name. The restaurant would have a name.
Just the restaurant, okay.
So there's a sign proposed, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, there's a sign proposed for the restaurant, which would be located on the pergola. And is there also signage proposed for the cafe on the?
Yes, that's correct.
building?
We're proposing a signage band that is also externally illuminated by gooseneck lamps that matches what we were able to observe from that historic image on the right side of the historic sign band location and its relationship to the facade.
Okay, and that's what's shown on the drawing on that's on the left side of the screen.
On the left side of the screen, the top part, yes.
Okay, and that's permitted. The only thing that's not permitted and requires a variance is the sign that is proposed for the pergola.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I think maybe the last thing I'd like you to touch upon would be the storage proposed for the 4 apartments in particular, particularly referencing the requirement of the site plan ordinance that provides that 200 square feet of storage is to be provided for each of the apartments. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So based on the layout of the basement and the access and requirements of trying to fit a whole bunch of things down there, we were able to fit some amount of storage, but an insufficient amount to meet the 200 square foot per unit requirement. But we've also done our best to try to create sufficient storage or ample storage within the units, with the addition of a couple of extra closets and the overall size of those spaces. We were attempting to try to create as many locations to store things as possible without compromising the layout, compromising the function of any of the spaces or the ability of them to exist beside each other. So we added some additional closets in addition to bedroom closets and washer dryer closets. We added another entryway closet that would be used for storage within the units, as well as that basement storage on the right side, which is divided up into 2 different storage rooms that will be exclusively for the use of the tenants.
So do you believe that the closets and other storage, that space that's provided within the apartments is adequate for these apartments given the size of them?
I believe this would be adequate, yes.
Okay.
Can you
Thank you.
tell me the size of the apartments? Did I read this correctly? Each of them is about 559 square feet? That seems very small for 2 bedrooms.
559 square feet is what it is called out as.
So each of those are 559 square feet, and they're 2 bedrooms, with each bedroom being about 10 by 10 square feet.
Correct, as it's shown there.
It strikes me as very small little spaces. But anyway, I had another question. You were on exhibit A01 about that alley. That alley you intend to put seating in?
Yes.
If you look at the picture, yeah, no, go up a bit, Janice, please. Up on the lower left, as I'm seeing it, you can see that little alley.
Here.
And that alley, yeah, the lower left, there's a fire escape that comes
yeah.
to the other building. And there's the kitchen fan, and there's steps that walk up. that, you know, that come down from the building as I can see it. Does that fire escape need to be lowered if there were an emergency? And would any of your chairs and weight stuff interfere with the use of that fire escape?
So we are proposing some modifications. Yes, you noted some things of stairs and exhausts. We are cleaning up that side of the building. We're closing up a couple of those openings because they are unnecessary for the proposed layout. And we would as well be sure that the clear space for any required fire escape movements would be maintained as part of the layout of that space.
Is this something our fire department would look at to make sure that that would that fire escape would work correctly, given the your proposed adjustments and changes? Do we typically, Janice, do we typically have our fire guy look at this?
Well, first, I sent it to the fire department and the fire code official, but he didn't send any comments as part of site plan review. They certainly, the fire subcode official does review the plans when they come for a building permit. So if they're not caught at site plan level, they'll be caught at building permit.
Yeah, well, it strikes me if you look at that, you know, that fire escape is really covers a lot of the area that you're proposing to put tables in. Also, how high is it off the ground? You know, you got people walking underneath it, waiting tables, moving around in that space. It seems you know, well, you know better than me, but it seems like a hard space to put tables and wait staff and, you know, and work with the fire escape there. But
absolutely, we love it.
I would feel happier
to create a unique space like this.
What?
I'm sorry, I said absolutely. We do love a good design challenge to create a unique space like this.
A little bit more than that. I think we need to have our fire people comment on that specific fire escape. I'm concerned about it.
Of course. Health, safety, and welfare is always number one.
I'm a risk manager by training.
Mr. Worsofsky, would this be appropriate for you for a question for the HVAC system, like where the units would go for air conditioning?
Absolutely.
Heat for the apartments and the restaurant. Okay.
So yes, there's some existing low rooftop HVAC equipment. We're proposing a new parapet wall or an addition of a screening element to be sure that we're making those less visible from the Depot Square side. So that ends up being on the back portion of the building or planned road side.
Do you have a sheet that shows that detail?
If you go back to the A0.1.
Is it a flat roof?
The lower portion is a flat roof. On A0.1, we're calling out a new parapet for HVAC screening. And that's kind of in the background beyond the sign that we were just looking at.
How come I don't see that parapet?
That little stripe in blue.
Here?
Yes, so we would be extending that up since we're removing that a little roof structure that was there to maintain the parapet wall and extend it up to provide better screening for that equipment.
Is that where the equipment is right now?
Yes, correct.
So you'll be adding the additional equipment at that location?
We're evaluating how reusable that big unit is, but any of the new equipment, yes, would likely be on that flat roof area.
And how do you shield that equipment from noise, for instance, for the adjacent building and also for your tenants on the second and third floor?
To some extent, the parapet screen kind of keeps the noise from going horizontal. It channels it a little more upward. And then for the building itself, a lot of that's up to the windows. Unfortunately, that's kind of the condition as the way that this building is configured, that there are windows that overlook that low roof.
Well, also for the building, you know, to the right of it, you have noisy, now you're having 4 apartments, 2 restaurants. How are you protecting the people in the 6-family home right next to you from the noise that those units will make?
Sure. So ideally, this parapet screening, increasing the height slightly of it, funnels that noise that instead of kind of radiating out horizontally, some of it goes a little bit more up and lessens the travel of the sound.
So your 3rd floor apartment will get all the noise.
Well, that extended parapet's really only on the Depot Street side, right?
I guess the question is there additional screening that you can put that will protect all the surrounding apartments up and to the side to protect it from the noise that potentially four, 5, 6 units would be making?
Do you guys have a noise ordinance or a decibel level that we would want to be considerate of?
I don't think Montclair has anything beyond, you know, the state requirements for noise levels at property boundary lines.
And I believe it's 60 decibels.
60 or 65, Janice, yeah.
I think most of the equipment that we would be specifying meets that sound threshold at the equipment.
Well, I guess we're looking for something extra, given that you have an apartment building right there with many tenants. Do you have any kind of, is there a difference in the quality of screening that you could?
Well, the specification of some of the equipment will be sensitive to the fact that there is such an adjacency. You know, we won't get the jet engine version. We'll make sure it's something that kind of has a lot of these units have like night mode and things where they're kind of running, but they purr a little quieter to be a little respectful of the neighbors.
And they have a night mode or similar condition for a typical kitchen exhaust too that would be located on that roof?
The kitchen exhaust, we would have to look a little more specifically at the equipment. But you know, something like an exhaust upblast fan, you know, kind of the same concept. It's discharging up, that the sound doesn't really travel horizontally by the nature of the device.
I mean, I believe if you put your kitchen exhaust on the same side that it's currently on now, the Red Eye building also has some windows and some tenants on the floors above the actual restroom that you might be mindful of keeping things quiet.
Over here.
Certainly have to look at that.
Are there, do the hours of the cafe and the restaurant overlap?
They would overlap. They would both be open during normal hours.
So the cafe is intended to be an evening cafe as well as a breakfast, lunch, as far as you know. I mean, I guess maybe no.
Without an operator for the cafe, it's you know, it would be within the hours that are set by the township of hours that are allowed to be doing business. But I couldn't testify to specific hours when that would be.
And the restaurant also could be going all day.
The restaurant could also be going all day, absolutely.
For the lighting on the new proposed sign on the Depot Square side, where does that lighting attach and where does it kind of originate from?
Sure. There's a detail on A-2.1. It's the second to last sheet, so sheet 10. And that light is kind of an LED strip down the length of it that's housed, you know, kind of underneath, and that the letters themselves are positioned on top of that to receive the illumination from below.
And how bright is a light like that?
Bright enough to illuminate the letters, but sensitive to, upward light pollution, and not, not creating excessive brightness.
Is that something that'll shine into windows if there are any on the building behind it, BLT?
I think with what we were looking at for one of these, they have like a diffuser, like a lens or something that makes it that there's no intense direct glare kind of at any angle from the fixture. That was definitely a consideration for us.
Could they be put on timers?
Absolutely. It's, it would operate when the restaurant is open and should be shut off, afterwards. There's no reason to use the energy to run it all night.
And does that sign move with the retractable roof? It's a
No.
little bit hard to, so it's not attached to the roof structure. It's that movable part. It moves behind it.
No,
Huh?
I see kind of how you're reading that. I
It's really
agree.
hard to tell
little-
how it's
a little
attached.
unclear like that, but figure it to be if it's a post and beam pergola system, that it's kind of sitting on that beam on the.
So it's going to be really sitting on the edge
on
of
the edge.
of
Yes.
the pergola. Okay, and not really set back like it's
Really set
rendered.
back. I think it.
Rendered on
It
10.
slid over a little bit in that rendering.
Let me ask you another question about your renderings. If you go directly below that and you look at the top of the existing roof where you've got the peak in the front on the, rather on the D, it's actually showing a peak that fronts on the Walnut Street side. And you have it white filled in at the top. It's on the left-hand side of the building, opposite from where you were, Janice. Yeah. And then if you go up to the very top of that sheet, if you go up to the top where you see the actual facade on Walnut Street.
I apologize for that. That looks like a drafting mistake. I must have lost something there.
Yeah, I was like, are you going, was this sort of like a beam element, or you're not going to deconstruct the roof there? Because the roof is shown on all the other places. I was just kind of thrown off.
Absolutely, that's a good catch. That is not the case. The roof is to be maintained and repaired as required to maintain it.
Okay. All right.
So will the right-hand side look the same as the left-hand side?
The right-hand side and the left-hand side would look the same.
It'll look the same as it does now, basically, because
The
they're
same as
not,
it does now,
they're
which
not
is
exactly.
different detail. Yes.
Yeah. So, and now, as long as we're talking about the front, if again, Janice, if you go up to the, I guess you're on the, yes, keep going right there. Yes. If the building, I see you've got the gooseneck lights over where you have like depicted Walnut Street Cafe. But over local eatery, you've got the bump out for the windows for the apartments up above. Is there going to be any lighting under that bump out to shine down on whatever the signage band that's there? Or is that just going to be dark at night?
We are not calling for any lighting on that side. I think that's because of the bump out. So yes, we are I guess calling that as dark for right now. But with the kind of the emphasis being more to the right half of the building for the entrance to the cafe and the residential entrance, it's somewhat of an attempt to balance the facade between the bay element and the right half of the building.
No, I understand. I have a tendency to look at symmetry and that kind of thing, and I understood how it was designed, but I just thought, well, if you recess lights in the underneath where that bay sticks out, you would illuminate that side too, and you'd provide a balance to the facade in the evening for the entire building. And again, you would provide the indirect lighting to the sign, but it would just be recessed up into the base of the bay.
Sure.
But
A little wall
if you wanted to do something like that, I think that would be something that we could consider, certainly. You know, but if you want to do it later, it might be an issue. You know?
Right. I think then we would say, you know, yes, I think that's a good consideration, and a wall washer or some sort that does not provide excessive illumination in excess of 0.5 foot candle at the property line would be an intent for that side as some kind of a concealed installation under the bay.
Yeah.
With a general approach to the illuminance similar to the let's call it the type B proposed wall lights as shown on T0.5.
Right.
Basically matching the plan illuminance level
Right.
of those goosenecks with a wall wash to accomplish the same.
Exactly, to balance the.
We also were big fans of symmetry, so this one I was scratching my head, sharpening my pencil for a bit with this building.
No, I see. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but what you're doing is interesting. Does Mr. Tremulak, again, did you have anything else that you wanted to ask before we start asking more questions?
No, I think I completed my direct exam by listening to the testimony regarding the signage and storage. So that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So are further questions from the board?
Yeah, I have another one. I just want to make sure about the lighting by the parking lot. We'll call it the parking lot, the driveway there. It says that there's, I think it's 3 15-foot poles, right, that are planned for that driveway or parking spot. So it strikes me that a 15-foot light, how are you really going to prevent that from shining into the second floor apartment next door?
Sure. We're
I know you said there's down, shades that make it point down. Do they really work, or can you just block out like a shield that would protect that side?
yes,
So that light
that's kind of exactly what that is. It's a shield. It's a fully opaque enclosure, around 3 sides of the light that keep 100% of the light spread in the direction or the cutoff pattern that we're intending to do.
Because I imagine that light would be on since it's for your tenants parking. I mean, that's the light that illuminates them going into their, getting out of their cars and walking around to the front to get into the building.
Correct.
So you might want to leave that on, not turn it off at night.
Correct. Like
Unless it's on a motion detector thing.
Right. Like a street lamp would be.
I don't see a detail of this light fixture.
On T0.5 on the bottom left side of the sheet. And I have in my notes, it may be from your ordinance that the pole should be 12 foot instead of 15 foot. I don't know if that was something from the planning report, but I believe we're modifying that accordingly.
Right. That's something, I think a 12-foot, because of the residents next door, I think a 12-foot light pole would be more appropriate than 15 feet at this location.
Yeah, I would agree. We were just also trying to be sensitive to the trash removal and the clearances.
And do those existing fixtures provide enough light in that area?
The existing,
or I should say those proposed fixtures.
The pole lights.
Yep.
Based on our illuminance, I would say that there's sufficient light without creating excessive light spill onto the adjacent property.
It looks like it's a very small.
It's kind of a very tight cutoff pattern.
So what about these areas in that outside the isolux patterns? What's going to be the illumination where these cars are?
There's some spill light beyond the isolux. Obviously, you know, it's not a hard line cutoff. That should give, you know, between the fixtures based on the spacing of them, that gives generally enough illuminance for the area of the car or getting out of the car.
Well, I guess this diagram shows that it does not. It shows that where the cars are outside of the 0.5 foot candle. I don't know if reducing it to 12 feet brings it brighter at the ground level, but our ordinance is it's really for where people are walking. It should be 0.5, and it doesn't show that it meets that requirement.
We could take another look at that. Is there another approach maybe that satisfies this easier without, you know, disrespecting the light spill?
Bollard
Yep.
lighting is always good.
Bollards.
And you
That
can
would
do
have
that
a-
on both. You can do that on both sides.
Yeah.
Right.
Of the, along the wall, along the knee wall for the seating area, and also along the side where the current light fixtures are. Where the proposed light fixtures are.
On the structure of the pergola. That might help.
Yeah, and I was going to raise that question too while we're on lighting, is how is that outdoor seating area lit? And also, if I think about it as a walkway, somebody entering the restaurant, how is that lit so that people can safely traverse the area?
Absolutely. So the pergola does have an integral lighting system, you know, to provide that general illuminance. For clarity, we wanted to leave that off, kind of as you know, the lighting of the space, and show the building mounted light fixtures and their illuminance for that first bay of the pergola structure.
And those lights on the pergola, they remain kind of lit and in place even when the awnings are retracted?
Yes, they're attached to the primary structural frame.
Okay.
Also kind of like a recessed linear light.
Are they depicted on any drawing that's enclosed in your submission? Because they should be on these plans somewhere. They should be shown on the plan somewhere.
The pergola lights?
Yep.
They are not shown in too much detail, again, because they're recessed, so the renderings, you know, kind of have the lighting from them, but obviously don't show the fixture, since it wouldn't be a visible fixture inside the structure.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we just want to show where its illumination pattern.
Yeah, and you'd have to, you know, do your couple of lines of explanation with an arrow drawn to where the light's coming from, so that it shows that it is there.
That's certainly something that we can provide if needed.
I actually had one follow-up question, if I might, Mr. Chair. Brandon, I'm looking at the lighting plan, which notes the two sections of depressed curbing on the Depot Street side of the building, and your plans indicate that the one section of depressed curbing would be removed and replaced with a full height curb. And I think Janice correctly pointed out in her memo that the other section of depressed curb should also be eliminated. Do you have any problem making that change?
The other section of depressed curb should also be eliminated on the plan left, closer to the.
Yeah, closer to Walnut Street.
we would have no issue with that, as we are eliminating that driveway.
Right, and that would allow for, I guess, at least 2 additional parking spaces on Depot Square as well.
That
Right.
that I feel would be appropriate.
Yep, okay.
Can I jump in with a question or two? Mr. Warshawski, there's a gate in that alleyway area. There's a gate that fronts on Walnut Street. How do people get out of there? Is the entrance to that area through the metal steps that are shown on A-1.0?
Yes, from the cafe space, you'd be able to get into the alleyway through that gate, which would remain open during business hours, as a door would be required to, or through the existing doorway from inside of the cafe space down those couple of metal steps into the outdoor seating area.
And in the rear, there's another door. What is that?
In the rear of
Yeah, I'm on. I'm sorry. I'm on A-1.0.
Sure. So in the rear from the restaurant space is just a secondary egress from the restaurant space. That would be more of an emergency use. If you're referring to the plan top right corner.
That's correct. That's what I am referring to.
Would be
how-
a secondary means of egress.
How many steps does it take to get from the cafe down to grade?
In the rear, the plan right rear door, it's 18 inches down to grade.
Uh-huh.
And in the front, the plan left door is 6 inches down to grade, which is 1 step.
1 step. Okay. You've discussed heating of the. I'm changing to a different part of the plan. I'm to the outdoor seating area. You've indicated that, and I think in connection with Ms. Laughlin's question and your own testimony, this is going to be a 4-season space.
Yes.
Where and how is the space heated? How is that affected?
Those would be, we would see those as portable heaters or something provided as part of the equipment from the operator, not a built-in system. The same way one would heat, a similar outdoor sidewalk cafe space.
So electric heaters, basically.
Or propane heaters, but portable, self-contained.
Okay. And another part of the confusion that I had is when we were discussing earlier about the coverings to the coming down from the pergola in order to enclose or to protect patrons from the elements, that creates, I think you said, that creates a building.
That's correct.
And so I'm not, I guess I'm questioning about how is that to be handled differently from a site plan perspective here in Montclair, or is that we're just saying that that's just the way it is? I guess I need some clarity about that aspect of the testimony.
Essentially, we're giving a site plan approval for a new building. At the same time, our site plan approval is reducing the amount of parking on site from 4 spaces to 2 spaces. This is my segue into my issue. We are increasing the number of dwelling units from 2 to 4. I double checked the RSIS. It is 8 spaces that are required under RSIS. So my concern is that, yes, we are essentially, this is approving a building, a new site plan approval for a new building on the vacant portion of the site, with the cost being the loss of 2 of the existing parking spaces.
And I believe also, I'm sorry not to interrupt you, but I believe also we would be open to understanding any restrictions on limits of placing wall enclosures around this pergola structure, if that were a condition of this being considered as an outdoor area, and to not have the ability to be enclosed with a hard form type panel.
I guess my concern is not so much that. My concern is the creation of 2 apartments without providing any on-site parking for those 2 apartments. It's always nice to have at least 1 parking space per apartment. Having been a renter in Montclair without on-site parking, it's extremely inconvenient when it doesn't have it, at least that 1 space. So I know there's parking, commuter parking in the area, there's commercial parking in the area, but you know what, those parking spaces are used over the weekends for the farmers market, and they're used for commuters during the day, so they're somewhat restricted. So I kind of feel we're granting site plan approval to essentially build a building on this vacant part at the cost of providing a minimum number of parking for the 4 apartments that are going to be on this site.
Well, our next witness is going to address parking, Janice. I understand your.
I guess my question to Mr. Orshowski is, originally you showed 4 parking spaces, two sets of tandem parking spaces, but somehow in order to, in the design, we lost 2 of those parking spaces, so we went from 4 to 2.
Well, Janice, that was done specifically. I think when we were before the Development Review Committee, it was pointed out that those 4 spaces really didn't work.
Well, right, they were poorly designed, but I didn't think that they would result in the loss of 2 spaces. I thought that the design could have been approved, so you could still have the 4 parking spaces, and also get your.
Yeah, let me back up Janice on that one. We did that. The point of that was not to come back with only 2 parking spaces.
Another element that impacts that is having a trash pathway. We fit those additional parking spaces on at the expense of having a means of getting the trash from its location to the street. So in order to satisfy that,
well, couldn't you get the trash pathway along the alley?
And
it would not.
Is it possible to take the area that you have used to return to lawn to get some more pervious surface in there? Is it possible to use some pervious pavers so that the parking could go further back?
My understanding is your engineers do not consider pervious pavers as a pervious surface.
Well, I mean, you've got to do something to address the parking issue. And while it may not be a pervious surface, it does allow for water penetration. And if you can make the argument to us that it would give us a comparable amount of absorption, water absorption.
I would not be qualified to say that.
But well,
we would enter. We don't mind putting pavers there.
I would love to. Your engineer shot me down on that a pervious paver is an impervious surface.
Right, but I mean we've got a parking situation, and to me, I appreciate the issue about having the water drainage, but a lawn area in this particular area is totally lost on me. The purpose or the value of it where this is totally lost on me. It's so if we could find some way to accommodate both needs, the need for the water to run off and the need for parking in that space, you know, that's something that maybe we should explore.
And even if that water wouldn't necessarily go back into the ground, at least it could go into maybe a retention basin for a slower discharge into the storm sewer.
There you go.
And I'm not sure there's space for a retention basin on this site.
An underground tank?
Underground, perhaps.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, you're not going to landscape a retention basin like you'd see at the end of a shopping center, but yeah, an underground tank that would slowly allow, you know, capture that inrush of a storm, but also then slowly discharge it either into the ground or in an overflow situation into the storm sewer.
Yeah. We're fans of thinking outside the box.
We have no issue making the whole drive into pavers. If that would be something you guys are interested in, that's not an issue.
Well, I think it might be worth if you could come back to us with what it would accomplish in terms of drainage and what it would accomplish in terms of giving you parking that would work better.
Dimensionally, the constraint still exists. You know, that
Honestly, one of the main reasons is we were trying to be respectful of that corner. I think that's a very important corner for Depot in general, and we were trying to make it into a, you know, for lack of a better term, a parking lot, because it's where you get off of, you know, that's where you enter Walnut Street, and it's such an important corner, you know, visually, and we were trying to minimize the parking while you know, providing as much as we can. I mean, we could put another row of parking, but honestly, it really takes away from that corner.
Well,
I think if you keep the pergola and the way you just, that's fine. It's in the back of the pergola, you know, going to the north, where I think you have the opportunity to provide the additional parking without any loss of the appearance of the corner.
right, and you can pull the cars further back so that they're not so close to the pedestrian walkways.
That was our original. We had originally proposed that, push the parking. We're fine doing that. That's something.
But what you originally proposed was too tight for 4 spaces. What we asked you to do when you came to the DRC was make it a little bit larger, so it was safer, and have it actually, you know, it really wasn't detailed. It was just kind of shown on there. We want to see the actual dimensions of the parking spaces to show that it works.
You know, we understand the need to consider the impervious surface change too. But, you know, what we're talking about is, again, thinking a little bit outside the box and trading off a technical issue for a practical resolution, you know, that might satisfy both. I don't know, because I'm not an engineer, I can't do the calculations, you know, but, you know, if you could demonstrate to us that the permeable pavers, you know, would give us the equivalent function of having a grass back there, but also allow you to park cars, you know, that goes a long way to addressing the issue with parking.
I don't even know why you'd want grass back there. It's kind of a pain in the neck to maintain. If you could do something else.
It's the requirement. It's the requirement in our ordinance to have the or to have a variance for it. So they're trying not to have a variance for it, but I mean, I would be willing to consider a variance if you're telling me the practical impact of it is little or none. You know, it makes a difference. Plus, it gets you more parking.
I mean, our ideal situation would be to put pavers the whole drive and behind the building. If you guys are okay with that, you know, that's our preference, because to your point, it's very hard to maintain the grass back there. We were putting there to respect the engineer's comments, but we're open to make it all pavers. And I believe, you know, from practical use, the pavers do absorb water. I know officially they don't, but they do, you know, allow for, you know, the water to permeate through them.
Yeah, I mean, they've even got the pavers that have the dirt in them, you know, that you can drive along them, but it will absorb, and if need be, you know, retention underneath it, so that it doesn't cause an issue with the runoff and such. It's, you know, it's a problem that could be engineered around, you know.
And I'll say again, with the garbage back there as well, the garbage away from the other apartment building next door.
So this would create, instead of a tandem, a triple tandem or a quadruple tandem condition.
Oh, we don't know. Play with the design. See what you can figure back there. The idea is it's better for your tenants to be a little inconvenienced with parking in tandem than to have no parking at all and having to hunt for parking on the street, which disrupts, basically, contributes to the disruption of the rest of the town parking issues. So
Okay. I think our parking and traffic engineer will be able to speak more intelligently on this than I will be able to.
Okay. More questions from the board?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the environmental theme for a moment here. Are there trees existing on the property?
Yes, there is one large tree near the corner. Let's see. Plus a series of small plants, one tree in degrading health, a couple of small shrubs in the roundabout, plus those mature screening plants on the plan right side property line adjacent to the 10 Depot property, and those are indicated to remain.
So all of the trees are remaining. Sorry, help me just understand which trees are remaining and how many are not remaining.
There's one mature tree that is not remaining, one mature tree in failing health that is not remaining, several small bushes that are not remaining, and several mature screening plants on the opposite side that are remaining.
Well, the only trees that are remaining are the street trees, right? Oh, this tree's coming down. This tree's coming down. This tree's coming down. These two trees are coming down.
Yes, and those are small, shrubs or small plantings.
And then there's one in the rear, it looks like, along the proposed parking area.
6 foot tall trees, and one in the rear, which we would be keeping. I don't believe I have that species identified on here.
You mean this one?
Yes.
Is that the one that kind of slants at a 20-degree angle or so away from 90?
Probably.
And I'm looking at, if I reference Ms. Talley's memo from September 7th, figure 4 photo, which is on page 4 of her report.
Yeah, that's it.
That might be it. So maybe that's one that needs to be removed also.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to ask if you're going to follow our tree ordinance.
You need a permit to remove that?
Well, you need a permit, but there's also tree replacement or I believe donation to the township so that it can replace a tree in kind for each one you remove.
Does it need to be a living tree?
Well, we don't really want a dead tree.
Yeah, I prefer that we plant living trees.
Does the existing tree need to be a living tree?
I think you should check the ordinance. It seems pretty clear about what needs to be replaced, I think.
I think we have to comply with the tree removal ordinance, and we would intend to.
And would you consider using native plants in all of your plantings?
We would be very happy to use native plants. I did not have a chance to consult with your town arborist yet, but I do hope to do that.
Thank you. I would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
More questions from the board? Okay, are there questions from the public concerning the testimony of the architect?
Yikes.
Oh, let me open, I'm sorry.
That's assuming that we don't lose power.
Okay, members of the public, I've unmuted you, so if you have any questions, now is your turn to ask questions.
I have some comments.
Comments are for the end of all the testimony. This time is for questions.
Okay.
The questions of the architect about his
specifically.
testimony.
Yeah.
You could make your comment in the form of a question.
Okay, let's see.
Thank you, Carmel.
Now, I'll save my comments for the end.
Okay.
All right. Are there any questions from anyone else?
I don't hear any questions.
All right. We're at 9:50. Does anybody need a break?
I'm just kind of wondering, Mr. Chairman, what our thinking is here, because we're going to have, in theory, we're going to have the traffic engineer, except the traffic engineer is going to have to come back a second time when we come back with other things. I'm kind of wondering what your thinking is about the overall plan here. Do you want to try to?
Who else do we have besides the traffic engineer, Mr. Tremula?
We have a planner with some planning testimony regarding the variances.
Right.
So two additional witnesses.
I'm sure you're going to want that. I'm sure you're going to want that at the end.
Yes.
And your traffic guy is going to have to come back with some more information from us.
Well, I don't know if the traffic expert will, but it appears that we're going to have to come back and show you some plan revisions regarding the parking, that was just discussed a few minutes ago, to see if we can get a couple more spaces on site.
And that will
Counselor, I'm going to give you some free legal advice. You don't want the parking engineer testifying tonight.
Well,
you want to come back.
Well, I mean, that's fine. We'll do whatever the board would like there, although I think he's going to provide testimony that will, demonstrate that separate and apart from the residential parking, we're really, want to assure the board that there's sufficient parking in the area to satisfy the needs of the first floor commercial tenants. But
is the residential parking going to change his testimony, Mr. Tremula?
Well, I guess it's all part of the same.
So why don't we just hear all of his testimony together then, instead of splitting it up between tonight and another session?
It probably makes sense to do it that way. So.
Except, I mean, John, I do feel strongly, I'd like to hear from our parking expert, because I have grave issues with this plan from a parking perspective.
Well, again,
get in line. That's why we're suggesting that they get another chance to kind of think about this and come back loaded for bear. I'm with you completely.
Well, just to address that, and again, I don't want to preempt obviously what our expert is going to say, but we will hopefully be able to come back with a plan that'll double the on-site parking spaces to 4, but we're certainly not going to be able to do anything more than that. And as I said in my opening comments, this property has operated in the past with essentially the same parking requirement that we have. And so we're not increasing, our change in use is not going to increase the parking that was parking on the prior use. It's going to essentially be the same, and it'll be satisfied in much the same way as the prior use for trumpets.
But it is increasing, but Mr. Tremblay, it is increasing the number of units for the dwelling, and I think that's what everybody's focused on, correct?
Well,
fairness, right?
So Mr. Tremulak, I would suggest that since we want to get your parking expert's testimony all in one chunk,
yeah,
if for no other reason, we need to come back for that.
Well,
It's clear that we have an interest in having our parking expert take a look at this also. So that now this gives us the opportunity to do that and to provide you with a report and us with a report that you'll be able to respond to also. So
that's fine, Mr.
And
Chairman.
Alan, just so I'm not being coy. I mean, I think that given a little bit more time, there are a couple of things that I'm hoping that your parking expert will be able to address. One of them is, it's been now 18 months since we've had a normal commuting pattern at the Walnut Street train station. So I want to make sure that when your parking engineer is coming in, he's looking at not what he's observed recently, but he's really thinking about what it's going to look like when we get back to a normal commuting pattern at Walnut Street. And the other thing I want to make sure he's addressed, and Janice brought it up, is the farmer's market. Now, the farmer's market is only a few hours on Saturdays, and we don't need to go too crazy about that for this, but we do need to make sure that there is a thinking about how the restaurant and cafe are going to coexist with the farmer's market, because now that the farmer's market is on both sides of the parking lot at Walnut Street, it used to be you could park for the farmer's market on the other side. You can't now. And so I just want to make sure that this project is not going to muck up the farmer's market. And so I wanted to provide you with a couple of things that were on my mind, that the other board members may have a few other things on their mind. And it was just my suggestion that I thought that if your parking expert testified tonight, he might be walking into a situation that he might, be better prepared for, having had the benefit of a couple of thoughts. And since you're coming back anyway, it was just my suggestion that tonight might not be the night for him to come in and face this particular firing squad with the wrath of God literally coming down.
I experienced the wrath of God at my house.
Can I make a comment? There's been a lot of talk about parking. Let's be reasonable with the applicant. The applicant, I believe, has made a wonderful application in terms of design. The building has been in a sorry state of repair for a long time. So my comment is, we've got 2 parking spaces out of a lot. So I look forward to the next meeting, and I do like what's presented, and I'm totally in favor of private capital coming in and refurbishing buildings that are sorely in need of refurbishment.
Since we were talking about the parking report, I'd like to point out on that report, your parking expert looks at Thursday at, I think it's 11 p.m. Most of the restaurants around there are closed. So that is not a good time to take a sample of what the parking situation is like. You're better off doing the same thing using 6:30 as you did on Friday. Thursday is very similar to Friday. Why would you use 11 p.m. when the restaurants, I did a little sampling. Corso is closed at 10. The brewery is closed at 10. The Halcyon is closed at 9:30. LaSalle Buen is closed at 9. So that timing doesn't make any sense to me. And also, you keep referring to the fact that, Trumpets was alive and this parking served Trumpets' needs. Well, when Trumpets was in its heyday, there were not the number of restaurants that there are now on Walnut Street. Walnut Street has totally changed since then. So please stop referring to what Trumpets was like, because in its heyday, there weren't the other restaurants around. So clearly there was parking available.
I want to kind of second Tony's comment and not make it seem as though I'm on the opposite side of it. I agree that it is a good thing to see an underutilized building rehabilitated with private funds, and we do want to be reasonable, and we do want to see things like this go forward. I'm a little less enthusiastic about the project, perhaps because I think that you kind of squeezed quite a lot into it, and the parking is a consequence of that. And so I don't want you to hear that we are endeavoring to be as unreasonable as possible. I think that we're really trying to help you find a way to make this work. But it is very important in projects like this that as happy as we are to see buildings put to better use, it can't be done in a way that makes the parking situation worse. And it really can't be done in a way that makes the parking situation worse for institutions like the farmers market. So that's, I don't think we're on different pages. I don't think we're looking to tank this because of parking. But I do think that it's going to require a little bit of sensitivity to an issue, period.
Mr. Jacobson, you make very good points, as does Mr. Ian Wally. This is a very important corner, and it's been it's been awful for a very, very long time. I'm very excited to have Mr. Hanini come here to do something meaningful and to do something and respectful of the historic nature of that building. I have been to Marcus Samuelson's restaurant in your Haynes building, and I've also been to the Dinosaur Barbecue in your other building, and your work is beautiful. It's exemplary, and I would be very proud to have a building that you restored here in our town. I've seen them firsthand. So I hope that we could work this out, and I hope that we can move forward. And I think that both sides are going to hopefully be reasonable, and we'll be able to do that. So
I appreciate the kind words, and just going back to what I pointed out before, the building sits on a corner. It's a two-sided building, and I was really against putting 30 feet of a parking lot. And we're very sensitive to the facade, because your depot is now your new facade. If we add 2 more spots, you're literally taking 30% of that facade for parking. Now, if we're arguing 2 more spaces, can't we just do 2 spaces off site? It's really the architectural approach that's best for the building. I mean, if you want to put 2 more spots, take another 15 feet, fine, we could do that. But honestly, this is a gorgeous location. And if you realize when you're walking from the train tracks, it's actually, the train tracks pick you up and then take you down. So that corner is an important corner in my mind for the entrance of Walnut Street on that side of the block. So to put more parking, I just think, I understand the parking and I understand people's issue with parking with the area. We're experiencing that all over town, and with COVID, it becomes more of a problem. But I would really love it if we could just make that facade much more welcoming. The parking. Really,
I think that, but that's come back with a plan. I mean, nobody's saying don't think about doing it off-site, but it can't just be a cross your fingers and hope that some pleasant spots will be found. I mean, we hear you, and you're right, but there also has to be a solution.
Right, and bearing in mind that you're increasing the residential load.
Yep.
So, it's not just the status quo of reopening up a building in the exact same circumstances that it was when it last functioned. The environment has changed, and we have to deal with this. We have to try and do what's best for the town. And I think you sense that we do like your proposal, and we just need to finesse it a little bit and massage it a little bit, and I think we can get there and come up with something that satisfies everyone.
No worries. Definitely.
And so we look forward to continuing this at the next meeting, and for you to come back and I guess think outside the box a little bit. And we're willing to asking for another variance if there's a really good reason for it is better than putting in something that is not quite up to par, and not having any variance at all. And I think we would rather give you a variance for something that works better than approve something without a variance that doesn't work. So Janice, what's our scheduling like for this?
Well, then,
Next.
I'd like to carry this to the October 18th meeting because we're going to have to cancel the October 4th meeting. So we'll carry this to the October 18th meeting.
Okay. And
Okay.
I assume no further notice would be required.
Nope,
Yeah.
and if we need
Consent.
extensions, you will grant them to us, right?
We consent if any extensions required for the board's time to act. Yes.
Excellent. All right, then we look forward to seeing you back next month.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
So Janice, how are we situated with the other application?
Well, Mr. Berkowitz is here. I just made him, Mr. Berkowitz, I just made everybody a panelist by mistake. I've done that before. Mr. Berkowitz, and I see that we have Mr. Dawson as well. So
Mr. Berkowitz can, let's see, Counselor, how many witnesses are you having for your application? Because we have a policy of not starting new witnesses after 10:30. It is five.
We have one witness, it's Mr. Dawson.
Please say that again a little louder.
We have one witness, it is Mr. Dawson.
All right. So here's what I would propose doing: taking a 5-minute recess, so that we can refresh our drinks and answer nature's call, and then 5 strict minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll start and see if we can hear your application and give you a decision one way or the other.
Very good, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, 5 minutes, everyone.
Likewise, ready.
Okay.
All right, Janice, let us know when everything is up and recording.
Yep, we are recording.
All right.
Is Mr. Dawson able to be heard on the video?
Mr. Berkowitz, we can hardly hear you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. I will project my voice into my screen because apparently that's where the microphone is. I want to thank the board for entertaining our application. This is the application of Total Image Solutions, excuse me.
You're kind of fading on us, sir.
You can't hear me now?
We heard you at first, but as you settled back into your chair, you faded away.
All right, I'm gonna stay up on the edge of my chair.
Okay.
My only question is a technical question. Is Mr. Dawson able to be heard?
Mr. Dawson, I made you an attendee. I mean, an attendee, panelist.
Yes, ma'am. Can you guys hear me now?
We can.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, good. So we're going to be presenting one witness for this application. We've submitted our application. Ms. Tally's got
Mr. Berkowitz, I'm very, very sorry. Can you face your computer? It looks as if you're looking elsewhere.
You know what the problem is? My image is on a different screen. How's this? Is this better?
If you can get a little closer, perhaps, to the microphone on your computer, that would go a long way.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
A lot better.
Okay. I'm going to cut right to the chase. Mr. Dawson, may I present my witness? Mr. Ness, man, present my witness.
Yes, we'll need to get him sworn in.
Yes. Mr. Dawson, do you have video?
For whatever reason, my phone's not picking it up right now. I tried and it kicked me off, so I'm sorry, panel.
This presents a little bit of a problem because
I can try it again. It may just kick me out again, but I can try if you guys would be patient.
Yeah, sometimes if there's not enough bandwidth, you can't. Then the video won't work.
All right, give me 1 second. I'll try to open it back up, and if something happens, I'll just log right back in.
Okay.
All right, 1 second, guys. You guys have me now?
oh, there you are.
There he
All
is.
right.
We hear you and see you.
Good
You're
deal. All right.
you're a lot better looking than your voice sounds. Okay.
It's late.
He just got done with football practice.
Yeah.
Let me just get a couple of preliminary questions. Mr. Berkowitz, where is your office located?
We're located in Marlton, New Jersey.
Okay. And Mr. Dawson, would you mind raising your right hand, please, sir? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Would you please state your full name and business affiliation for the record?
Jason Lee Dawson, owner of Total Image Solutions.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ness. Mr. Dawson, could you tell the board what Total Image Solutions does?
Total Image Solutions is a company started 10 years ago who handles re-imaging of petroleum gas stations across the country.
Okay, could you tell the board what this application is for?
This application is for a Shell retail image, visual image evolution upgrade of the local gas station. in plainness, it's just really upgrading the fascia of the canopy. As you noticed in the past, the shell letters were illuminated on the canopy. The new image is the pecten that's mounted on the canopy, which is the shell logo that's known globally. That's really the main change we're looking to make here, and I think the reason we're here for the meeting tonight.
Okay. Have you been involved in the applications that have been approved in the past?
Yes, sir.
And is this a great variance from what has been approved in the past?
No, sir. This is just a standard change in their image, which happens for most major oil brands. I think here, it's just going with their global image versus the logo of the past.
Okay. Is the actual square foot of the sign, how is it compared to the previous sign?
From what I've checked into, it's smaller than what's there previously. It looks like what we're looking at is the orientation is different. So instead of a rectangle, the shell letters being longer and a little bit shorter, we're looking at more of a square. That's really where we're at. Smaller square footage, but in a different orientation.
Okay. How does Total Image Solutions propose to handle the demolition waste of the existing sign?
Dispose of it according to all applicable laws. I think right now it's probably neon or a fluorescent tube. We would remove that, dispose of it off-site with an appropriate EPA disposal agency, and install the new one as per local code.
Okay. I will open the witness up to questions from the board at this time.
If I could just interject, I just want to, the reason we're here is because this sign requires a variance. And the variance that it requires is that the new logo is higher than the height of the canopy. So it's going to extend above the top of the canopy, and our ordinance does not permit that. Otherwise, you're right, it's smaller in the square foot area than the existing sign.
So this one, honestly, if you look at it, it actually does not extend above the fascia. It's contained within the fascia.
The fascia is not. It's not. The fascia is not 36. It says 36 inches tall, but it's really not.
It's 33 and a half. And if you look at the drawing at the top, the canopy is the red band, the yellow band, and then the white is actually part of the canopy fascia. It would be.
But where's the white on the canopy here?
That will be replaced with the new ACM. So the yellow.
So you're it's not just the sign, you're redoing the whole canopy fascia.
The canopy fascia would be replaced with new ACM, and what I was led to understand through our permit department is the only item that we needed to address on the variance hearing is the orientation of the square footage. Not that it was over top of the canopy fascia, but that it was in a square orientation instead of a rectangle orientation.
No, if you look at my report, because it wasn't clear to me, there's nothing in the application that said you're actually extending the height of the canopy.
We're not. Currently.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, the current part of the canopy now, which is yellow, looks like it's yellow, is going to be white now. Is that what you're saying? That's going to be white?
So the white at the bottom all the way to the top.
Right.
Would be one continuous sheet of ACM that does not extend above or below the current parapet of the canopy fascia. That would just have the new striping that is part of their new global image. And then the sign would be contained within that same area.
So the picture that's at the bottom right hand on what's up on the screen now, that shows this white band above at the top that runs through the seems to run through the top of the logo. That's not just a blank area where something was cut and paste. That's the actual canopy. Is that what you're saying?
Where it says the photo for reference?
Yep.
Yes, sir. That's a reference photo of another canopy in the New Jersey area. I believe that canopy is a 48-inch canopy, but it's the same orientation. It's not sticking above it.
It'll be the same. It'll be the same look. It'll just only be 38. I'm sorry, 36 inches from top
Correct.
to bottom. Correct.
Yeah.
But it will look exactly like that, and the canopy that's depicted at the top left, which is the existing canopy on Bloomfield Avenue, that's from the bottom, from the white bottom to the top of the yellow top is 36 inches.
Yeah, that's
is that
correct. Yes, sir.
So it's gonna look like the bottom right, but it's going to be exactly the same in terms of dimensions as the top left.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
And the word shell is going to be replaced with the logo of a shell.
That is correct.
Oh, okay.
So Mr. Dawson, you submitted two plans, one with the 33.5-inch sign and one with the 47. So clearly the 47.5-inch sign does exceed the height of the canopy.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. And that is, Shell's global image is we always have to request the one that does stick above the canopy fascia.
Okay.
Multiple localities do not allow that, so we always have the fallback of the one that's contained. But we have to, on their behalf, request that and provide documentation to them that it's not acceptable.
Okay. So really, what the board is here tonight to determine is whether or not to go with option one, with the new sign, which does not exceed above the top of the canopy, or option two, where they would need a variance for the larger sign that does exceed the top of the canopy.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Mr. Dawson, what is the material you're referring to? ATM?
Sorry, ACM, aluminum composite. So it would be, two pieces of 030 aluminum that has a composite rubberized material in the middle, very similar to, every other gas station fascia you would see or car dealership fascia. It's just a aluminum panel structure that's used throughout the industry.
And is the M, does that stand for material? Is that ACM?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay.
And the only thing that will be illuminated is the shell, right? Is the sign, not the whole canopy, or?
That is correct, just the sign, and actually only the shell itself. The white area around it is metal. The shell is a push-through illuminated logo, so the white would not illuminate at night, just the shell pectin.
So I think this is pretty straightforward. We're here because we've got a series of, had site plan approval, and all of these signs required variances. It still requires a variance, but it is indeed smaller than the existing sign.
Sounds like option two is the way to go.
You mean with the smaller sign?
With the smaller sign, it's not going to be any bigger than what's currently there, and instead of saying shell, it's going to be a logo of a shell.
Yes, sir.
Which, quite frankly, I think looks nicer. For me. That's just me.
I agree. So does everybody at Shell.
So can we make a motion to accept option two?
Okay, who's making the motion?
I am, Carmel.
And I'll second it.
Okay. Let me do the roll call. You have a motion to approve. Vice Chair Brodock,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Ian Wally,
Yes.
Ms. Lockman,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller,
Yes.
Ms. Willis,
Yes.
Chair Wynn,
Yes.
and Mr. Jacobson.
Yes.
There you go.
All right, gentlemen.
And thank you for your patience.
Mr. Berkowitz,
Yes.
I can truly say that you can get the shell out of here.
Good one. I thank the board very much.
How long were you holding on to that one, Arthur?
All right, guys.
All right, guys.
Thank you again.
All right, good luck. Get me your sign up.
Thanks, everyone.
Good evening.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Oh, boy.
Okay, I have, at the last meeting, I mentioned that there's 3 openings for subcommittees. We have an opening for the revisions committee, the redevelopment committee, and the master plan committee. I know, Tony, you reached out to me and said you were very interested in sitting on the redevelopment committee. Is anybody else interested in either the revisions committee or the master plan committee? The
Don't
revisions,
volunteer at once now.
Well, I'm on 4 committees already, so I think I'm out.
right. I know the master plan subcommittee does not meets very infrequently. Really, when we're working, and we may hopefully next year start working on the climate change hazard assessment element. Keith, I know
Janice, which one did Tony pick up?
the redevelopment. It's what he said. He expressed interest in the redevelopment committee.
I'll do the planning board revisions committee.
That's Mr. Graham, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. At least one more opening on the master plan subcommittee. We've got Carol and Mike Graham. Keith, I don't know if you're interested in volunteering, but I do know you know a lot about planning. You're a licensed professional planner right now, aren't you?
That is true. And if nobody else wants to volunteer, I would do it.
And it's your birthday.
With a birthday gift.
Yeah, sign me up for another gift tonight.
Gift
I
that
just
keeps on giving. Yeah.
I just find your participation always valuable. So
I appreciate that.
well, thank you. So I'll send out the amended lists. After our last planning board meeting, which was August 23rd, on August 24th, the council adopted a resolution authorizing the planning board to study whether blocks 3307, lots 7 and 3304, lot 1 qualify as an area in need of redevelopment. This is over by the Walnut Street area. It's that large industrial tract that used to contain Cesari's, Richie Cesari's restaurant and the associated building where there's a lot of uses right now. This is going to take a bit of time. I'm just letting you know that we've been authorized to do the study. It's going to take me a little bit of time to actually pull together all the research to do this because there's more to it than an area in need of rehabilitation. But just to let you know that this is on our list of things to do.
All right, and we'll be doing a request for proposal for outside assistance.
On this one?
Will we?
Well, we don't have a budget for this.
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah. So right now it falls on my shoulders unless I, can hold off until next year.
Well, seeing as how you're one man down,
it's really hard.
How are you expected to do that?
I don't know. I've got to school myself.
Okay.
So unless somebody gives me more money, and I can talk to the manager and see if there's money available. But they certainly expected me to be able to do this. They probably were not expecting Graham to resign when they were pondering this. So.
All right.
Okay. All right.
All right. Do we have bills?
We do have bills. Janice, I assume we didn't have any additional response from SCE?
SCE eliminated those extra charges from their bills. So it was satisfied.
Okay. So then are we going to get those at a future date or should we include that in the motion today?
There was only 3 bills that had the extra charges. So 2 of those bills just went away. I got 1 bill last week, which I can send to you for the next meeting.
Okay. And I would move to approve the bills we did receive this week and that were in our package.
Okay. Is there a
I'll
second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you all for your participation. Keith, if we were there in person, I would have brought a cake. But since we're not, I'll give you an IOU.
Fair enough.
Like the Brady.
And I hope you had a good birthday.
I did. I had a 3-layer red velvet cake.
Oh, that sounds yummy.
Excellent. Well, make sure you continue to celebrate throughout the week for having to spend your evening with us.
Sounds good. It's not all bad. I enjoy it.
Okay. Good night.
Have a good one, everyone.
All right, everyone. Have a good evening.
You
Everyone.
too.
Next
Good
time.
night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.